Well, this is a video of the new Harbor Freight 100-watt solar panel kit. This just released, as far as I know, the first part of July or late June 2017. And I've just opened up the box and set everything out. Nothing is mounted permanently or anything. In fact, it's not even connected yet. I'll do that next. Again, this is the solar panel kit from Harbor Freight that's rated at 100 watts. Brand new, mid-2017. And we're just out here in the evening sun in the backyard. Get a shot at both sides of the box here. And here are the contents. I'll try not to shade the items here, but you have the solar panel controller. You've got the connector to hook to the battery. Another connector down here. That's to go into the proprietary front panel connection for the solar panel input to the controller. And then this down here is the combiner. And then Harbor Freight continues to offer the lights with the switch. A nice manual, and that mounting hardware that you see there is to mount the panels together. So something else I thought people would be interested in is how long are the cables? So I've got a tape measure rolled out here, and the tape measure is, you'll see there's two wires next to it. One of them is the combiner wire, the main wire for the solar panels, and then the one on the right side is for the light. So I've got these, they're not tight, but it gives you an idea of the length. And I'd say that combiner cable with the, as I have it, is maybe 12 feet. And if you look at the light bulb, it comes out here well past the 13-foot mark. So I'm going to call this 15 feet long, which is actually quite nice for that light bulb, 15 feet long. Now, another thing that might be interesting here is to see the panels themselves a little bit better. So if I pick a panel up, you can see that there is a metal bracket, and this metal bracket allows you to stand it up. And then on the back of that, you'll also notice a pigtail. I haven't measured this yet, but it looks to be like 6 feet long for a power cable. And then looks like they're serialized. So that was my serial number there. And the serial numbers match on all 4 panels you get. Another interesting thing is that each of these panels has an indicator for solar energy coming in. So just talking about what's new in this 100-watt solar panel kit versus the old one. Start with the obvious. The old ones were 15 watts each, so you had 3 of them, so it was a 45-watt set. And I think that last set was out for like a decade. So the other big change, so in addition to having 4 panels, each panel's 25 watts each, so up from 15 to 25 each, and they added another panel. Then you have the controller. Controller is a lot different. It's quite small. This one is off right now, and I can show it later on. But the solar input here is actually plugged in like that. And then that extension cable I showed goes into here. So it plugs into the front. But you do have the option to plug solar in here, and the battery goes here, and here's your output. In addition, there are these kind of proprietary, well, it's an open standard DC output here, and those light bulbs fit in 2 of these. This switch up here turns the light bulbs on and off, turns off the outputs. And then you have your USB power out. I didn't see the amperage on that. Maybe I'll look at the back here and see No, nothing on the back to indicate the amperage, so that might be another test. So I've now connected a Harbor Freight 35 amp hour battery to the charge controller. You can see it's reading 12.8 volts. That's a little different than what I got with the multimeter, so I'll look at that in a second. These are the clamps that come with the kit. I gotta tell you, these clamps feel very cheap. They're very thin metal. Now maybe they'll get the job done. They probably will, but they are quite cheap. I'll come back with the multimeter hooked up. Okay, so I've plugged in the multimeter, connected it to the battery, and you can see it's reading 13.0807 volts, and the Harbor Freight is reading 12.8 volts. Maybe not the end of the world. Notice I don't have the solar panel connected or anything here. Okay, we'll connect the solar panel and see what we get. Now I'm going to show you, I don't know how well the sun will show here, through the clouds there. And it's later in the evening here in the summer, so I'm not convinced we're going to get much out of the panels, so I may have to come back and do that later. I am wondering about the discrepancy in the voltage reading though. Not that far off, but we'll take a look. Okay, let's plug the solar panels in. Now I wanted to notice that the solar panels are all connected together, and they go through that combiner. That combiner is this longish cable, and then a pigtail gets adapted to it, which gives you this connector. Then this connector goes into the solar input here. Now you could also plug your solar in over here, but that's how it goes. So notice once I do that, even with the sun starting to kind of, basically it's about to set and it's going through clouds right now, and the panels aren't even facing the sun. The sun is over there. Now I'm going to go straight down. The panels are facing off of the sun. So this would be where the panels are facing. No sun. Okay, but they're still getting enough to produce some power. So remember the battery, the reading at the battery terminal was 13.07. Now it's 13.33. Clearly charge is taking place. Now I need to practice on these menus to see what each of them mean, but this button cycles through the menus. I'm not sure there's a menu that tells you the panel output, but I could be wrong. Maybe this is it. Maybe I'll need to plug a multimeter in there and see if that's it, 14.4. Probably need to read the manual, so I don't want to mislead anybody about this, but these are the different menus. This is back to where we were, so now it's 13.1 and 13.39. Okay, so I have plugged in the multimeter into the solar panel, auxiliary solar panel port here. So you can plug solar in this one through the connector they provided, or if you didn't have that connector, you could plug it in here. So I have the leads for the multimeter plugged in there. So I believe these two are likely connected. And again, with that very overcast 7:30 something p.m. evening in July, solar panels pointing the wrong way, it's reading 13.75 volts coming in. So I think I believe that. That's pretty impressive, and that's what people have said about these panels. You know, the monocrystalline panels are supposed to be much better than these, and I believe that. But maybe if you're in an environment where you don't get a lot of really bright sun on the panels, but you want some battery charging to take place, you could have that with these. Tomorrow I'll get a better shot facing into the sun. Another note I wanted to point out is I tried to make this an all Harbor Freight event. We got the Harbor Freight battery, the Harbor Freight screwdriver. There's the Harbor Freight multimeter. I was reading it for the first time. This was one of the free ones, so you can't ask for much. I just didn't quite trust it, so I used the this other multimeter I had. Maybe it's fine. And we're using the Harbor Freight battery, 35 amp hour battery. So I think I'll leave the panels out overnight and come back in the morning, and I guess I'll check and see, you know, if we have the sun shining on the panels, what we can do charging wise. Pretty happy with this. This in July they had a coupon. They always have coupons. July 2017, and it was $150. Just a week prior, I had bought the 45 watt kit for $100, and I would say to get double the power output with the modern charge controller, a little more modern, would be well worth it. So I was reading the manual just a little more closely, and when you toggle the display button, it toggles between these menus here. And so that's what we were looking at. Those menus seem to be cutoff points for various charging modes. And it looks like the way to view the battery voltage is to push the load button. So I'm going to give that a try and see if that helps give a true reading of the battery voltage. Okay, so I've plugged the multimeter back into the battery. Okay, so I'm reading the battery voltage. And if I press the, here we go, the load button, so that arrow appears next to the light bulb. So that would turn these ports on and off, probably USB 2 and probably this one. But according to the manual, if I push it one more time, that arrow went away, and it's telling me my battery voltage is 13.4, 13.5. And the multimeter says 13.7. Okay, so maybe a discrepancy there. If I find I did something wrong, I will make an update. That's not the end of the world either. Okay, one more thing I thought people would be interested in is this page in the manual, which just gives you an overview of what comes with it. I'll hold still here. And you can see you have the 4 solar panels, the 4-in-1 splitter, the charge controller, 2 light bulbs, LED. I think they used to be fluorescent, didn't they? So that would be interesting. Now they're LED. You get the screws and the connection brackets, and the DC J plug. I believe that's what plugs into the controller, and the wing nuts. And there you can see it pictorially. Here's that mounting hardware. So I think it said it has 6 of these. These connect between each panel, so you can actually connect all the panels to each other. Looks like a nice setup with those wing nuts and the light bulbs. All in all, I'm happy with the purchase. Hopefully I'll get this installed on the shed here in the coming days. Good job by Harbor Freight. Hope this can be helpful to somebody.